What is up, everybody? Mark on the mic here, joined by Mr. Chris and Mr. Liam, Vortex's very own. Gentlemen, thanks for joining me today.
Thanks for having us, man.
Yeah, thanks.
Boy, guys, family's important.
It is.
And we have added to the Defender family of red dots, and that's what we're going to talk about today. We've been actually waiting to do this podcast for this latest edition.
Yeah.
The Defender XL. But we're gonna talk about the series comprehensively today. As Chris is, you got your wave down. It's kind of like a float wave slash a
I've been working on it. I've had some time,
Chris, you're dressed very nice today in your favorite color.
Of course, naturally.
I actually put this shirt on so I could FDE with you.
I did not get the memo, but Chris and I are rocking Solomon's together.
Yeah, that's true.
So
that is
gang.
Mm-hmm.
But Liam, you are wearing a shirt that says, "I'm not carrying a gun." But then also, like, I don't want to call you a liar, but I'm going to use my deductive reasoning. Oh, okay. It says LOL JK on the back. Okay.
That's very good.
Yeah, okay.
That's very
Now I'm tracking now. Guys.
I'm going to need a link, actually.
I got you.
Okay, thank you. Anyway.
Shout out.
That's what we share shooting advice, optics advice, as well as fashion advice here.
This is a fashion podcast. I didn't know if you knew that.
You guys didn't know you were signing up for fashion.
Yeah, FD's the new black. We got all sorts of
stuff. They were here for
the
dots, but they stayed for the fashion.
Exactly.
Exactly.
Who knew? Boy, you guys are big pistol dot guys.
Yes.
You could say
One
that.
could say that, yeah.
It has changed the game. We like broken record over here, but it really has changed the pistol shooting game.
Mm-hmm.
The limited shooting that I do, like if I go back to a pistol that doesn't have a dot, it's just like, oh man, like
it's like, oh
yeah. How do you work this thing? This thing still
visually does not compute.
Yeah.
But let's talk about them. Let's run through the series. We'll do maybe a recap starting with the Defender CC dub. Go through that. Get to the ST. Some of the differences there, and then we'll jump into the XL, the newest edition, and kind of the big guy of the bunch, and kind of the specific applications it's purpose built for.
For sure. So so when we wanted to tackle updating our pistol dot line, the biggest factor in that was application, because our users are a lot more informed and a lot more application driven for what they want. Because red dots are pretty much standard on all pistols nowadays, iron sight guys are going to calm down. It's all right. Yeah, they're going to freak out over that. But to be honest, like
they've cleared their garment.
Yeah,
when you said that.
There is so much research and so much proof, even from you guys down at running classes all the time, that new shooters and then even experienced shooters shoot a dot better and faster than they do iron sights.
To your point, man, like it used to be, we used to offer a SKU for training that was specific to red dots.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? And so even in the 3.5 years that I've been here, that's kind of fallen off the table. And now just like our traditional pistol classes, our pistol 1 through 3 are just pistol classes that happen to have 95 to 100%, red dots on the gun. So, I mean, it's even in the last 3.5 years, there's been such a boom of red dot application on handguns.
And we can go over like all the advantages, smaller target occlusion, faster pickup of the aiming system, things like that. But our older dots were very much kind of a do-it-all dot. The Viper and the Venom and the Razor, they were all very similar in what they offered, and they all were kind of just kind of a do-it-all master of none kind of product.
And somewhat disjointed too.
Mm-hmm, yeah, for sure. Again, different time, and now we're in this point where pistol dots are on almost every pistol, and each pistol is very different for its application. So, therefore, the optics and the accessories, kind of like you see here, have to kind of match those things. So, starting out with the CCW, a ton of new concealed carry people, a ton of concealed carry practices going up in general. And the smaller guns are all now being cut for optics. And, it's kind of that thing where the gun you carry is probably the gun that you train with most of the time anyway. Sometimes there are other, guns you carry. Like I have a rotation of guns I like to carry that are just different. They do different things. But
Again, it goes back to fashion.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah,
you know, if
exactly.
I'm wearing shorts, then I'm probably going to carry a different gun than I'm wearing pants. Same
Yeah.
thing. But that being said, like the CCW, super small, big window, but small body, and the RMSC footprint is really kind of the, I guess, standard for that size gun, for a micro compact, things like that. The ST is slightly bigger, has the Delta Point Pro footprint. That's your main difference there. You got something? On
No,
ST?
I mean to your point. Like I know I can take something that's kind of milled, like this really small dot, like a 43X or a gun, I should say, and I can directly apply that CCW to it without needing a plate or anything. Right. But then, like, if the next step up is this 17, for example, which comes in MOS variant, we ship it with a plate, right? And
steel plate too.
A steel plate at that. Yeah, a really rugged, reliable plate that I've yet to have any failures on. And I think the ST really finds its home, like for concealed carry, duty use, standard size firearms, even some bigger platforms. But I think that's where the ST really shines.
Yeah, and the ST kind of, we designed that one to be the do-it-all for this group of dots, right? So the ST really excels in pretty much any application that, whether that be recreational range use, duty use, like Chris said, even offset carbine stuff, turkey hunting and shotguns. We did some of that stuff this year with it and last year with it, and it's great for that. So yeah, the ST was kind of the one that I guess you could say replaced the Venom and Viper as kind of the do-it-all dot. But obviously, it's a much higher quality dot and, way more durable, things like that, better optics, etc. And then when you get up to the XL, this is pretty much, Chris's favorite dot. The XL was designed specifically for competition shooting. So it's got a huge, huge window, bigger dot sizes for way faster target acquisition where you don't need to be so pinpoint. It's a 5 and 8 MOA dot, and the window is absolutely humongous.
Yep. I'm probably a terrible example of what you're getting ready to talk about because, like, I'm carrying concealed. I carry an XL like every single day. So, but to your point, I think it's a fantastic option for competition use. It's what I use specifically for outside the waistband for performance style shooting. It's certainly what I use when I teach, and I've grown pretty fond with the dot because I've been running it for about a year and a half, 2 years now.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And so I've yet to destroy one, like I have other dots. So, yep, I'm a big fan.
I mean, so what pistol do you have it on right now that you're carrying? Like, definitely a full-size gun or?
Glock 34.
Glock 34, yeah. Okay.
Jeez.
Yep. And I have an ST on my 17, and then, just depending on what I'm doing, I may carry like the 17 for whatever reason. Mainly I just have the two just to kind of have some interchangeability. So like if my 34 goes down for whatever reason, there's my 17 as a backup gun, vice versa. But I just stick to carrying the 34.
Nice.
Yep.
Some commonalities, I'd say, between all of the dots in this family. Incredibly rugged construction. We've tested the absolute heck out of these things, to put it lightly. Countless have been fielded already. Rugged construction. It's got the shock shield on the top. You got your fast rack texturing on the front face there. Like you guys said, even for the CC Dub, the baby of the family, very large window for a dot of that form factor. And I think that carries through the series, very, very, large windows, for that optimal sight picture, excellent optics. There are some differences, though, some features of the XL. And let me know if I missed anything there, by the way. Top load battery. To me, that's important.
On the CCW and the ST, correct?
Yep.
And they're all technically top load battery. The mechanism by which we do that is different slightly to the XL.
Yeah, let's talk a little bit about that on the XL while we're speaking to it.
Yeah, I mean, so on the CCW and the ST, those both ship with a specialized tool. You have to get in. It's just a flathead at the end of the day, right? So you have to undo the battery cap by rotating the battery cap, and it just pops off. The battery cap itself is magnetic, so it does a good job of capturing the battery, and the battery isn't jiggling all over the place. And so once you pop that off, battery comes out, new battery goes in, you just screw it back in, done. You know what I mean? On the XL, however, you just have to have like, I've done it with a 556 tip. I've done it with a paper clip, a pen. I mean, any number of tools, and all you have is just a little rod that you have to depress, and then the battery cap comes open.
Nice.
Right? And so again, that battery cap is magnetic. It does a great job of pulling the battery up to it. So all you have to do is slide the thing out, put a new battery on the magnetic surface, close it, and you're done.
Why would that maybe be something a person would like in a dot?
Well, I mean, if you think about, and I'm not going to compare it to like other manufacturers, but you just think about the offerings that we used to have, right?
Mm-hmm.
You had one of our dots that just required you to remove the entire optic from the gun in order to change the battery from the bottom, right? Obviously, if you're torquing the gun,
It kept it very trim and low,
right. But I mean, then you have zero, and then you had like different considerations there. So if you like, say you pull up to a stage and into a match, and you discover your battery's dead, I'm pulling off my entire optic and trusting that my dot is going to be on for the entire match.
Better have a torque wrench with you.
You better have a torque wrench, and you better be doing things consistently, right? However, with this, it's same scenario, right? I pull up to that competition. I go to the safety table. Oh, no dot. Battery must be out. And then within 15, 20 seconds, I've got a new battery in there, and I'm ready to rock. And I know that I've not done anything to impact the zero or the potential like point of aim, point of impact of the gun. I got a new battery in there. Yep, I'm nuclear bright and ready to go.
Yeah, so that's, like I said, kind of going back to application-driven stuff, right? So that's something that we heard a lot of feedback on for the older dots, and especially guys shooting competitions, was it's easy to change. We want it to be easier to change the battery.
Yep.
And the size of the XL's body allowed us to do that mechanism, which gave it a lot. And kind of going back to something you said, Mark, about how big the windows are in comparison to the size of the optics. They're not only big, but the smaller details I think really matter. Like they're taller. So a taller window is better, obviously, just because as the guns are recoiling, you can track your dot further. Again, kind of going back to some of the stuff like maybe you shouldn't be looking at your dot while you're shooting, but as you are, if you do, that dot has a lower chance of actually leaving the window. So follow-up shots are faster. Seeing the dot again is quicker. And then also kind of going off the fast track stuff, yes, it's cool. It looks cool, but it also adds another kind of buffer for protection of your lens. And then we've also recessed the lenses into the body. So a lot of other red dots on the market, the lens is right at the front of the body of the optic. So we've recessed that quite a bit on all of them, and so they actually sit back in their so they're a little bit more protected that way.
Mm-hmm.
And they're also aspherical, which means that they don't have any distortion. There's very little color tint, and there's just they're just a much better optical system.
Yeah, I've done this thing. I've gotten in the habit, like when somebody like comes up to me and questions like the durability of the thing, I just very politely unload, show clear the gun. I've done this like at events like Urrutia. I do this all the time at our classes.
And then
and I clear it, and I either just like at Ohio Range Day, the nearest hard thing I had besides like the gravel was we had a trailer that has the metal shroud around the tires on the trailer.
Sure.
You know what I mean? I just walked up to that thing and just started banging on it, and I went, here you go shoot it. And zero shift, not an issue. The zero didn't shift at all. And obviously the glass is still pristine. And it's cool because on that metal shroud, you can see the outline of the texture. And so it's like,
oh, wild.
We're good to go. And then when we're on the range, unload, show clear, the nearest hard thing I have is obviously the floor. Tap it on the floor a couple times. And then we have the metal rails.
Oh, mm-hmm.
Yep. If you're in our maintenance department, I apologize in advance.
They just realized where those marks are coming from.
Man, yeah,
it wasn't an animal. It was Chris.
It was Chris with the Defender.
Mystery salt. Wow. Yeah.
One and the same. But anyway, I just start racking it off that metal rail, and again, no issues. So it's
cool.
a very, very sturdy dot, man.
Yeah.
We were talking about ease of access to the battery if you need to change your battery, and like, oh, my dot window. And in some ways, yes, for me it's just like even just ease of access for like my just like maintenance schedule, right? Because these have a really, really solid runtime. And we've talked about this before, but I do want to reiterate, what we're quoting as far as runtime versus battery life, because I guess a focus group of one here, but it seems like it's a less boastful number, but I think it's a more useful number for the user to have a realistic, I guess.
Well, I think the
perception
word there
of the battery.
I think the
runtime.
word there is realistic, right? So what Mark's talking about is we define battery life and battery runtime as two different things. Battery runtime is constant on at a certain setting level, like without the auto off, without the shake awake enabled. So that is, I turned the dot on and I've left it on. And so that is a hard number, whereas battery life is more of a variable. It's kind of up to the user on what that number is going to be, how much they carry their gun, how much they use their gun. If someone's carrying it every day, that battery life is probably close-ish to the battery runtime number. But if you shoot maybe once a month and the rest of the time the gun's in the safe, then that battery life is going to be way longer than the stated runtime. And that's just due to, again, a lot of the improvements we've done electronically, things like that, like the emitters. The emitters are all updated. They are all constant current emitters. So the refresh rate is great on all of them. There is no issues. The CCW's been updated as well for having that. So
Chris is raising his hand. I'm going to call on Chris.
Can we park there for a bit and talk about refresh rates?
Sure.
Okay. I've spent a lot of time with the CCW, right? That back like three years ago, that was the first updated dot that I got my hands on. I was like, oh my gosh, this thing is amazing, right? So yeah, we had that issue with the refresh rate, but I mean, can we talk about like what's going on now?
Yeah, I mean, I wouldn't even say it's an issue. It was something that
or concern, I should say.
Yeah, it's probably maybe a concern, but it's a feature that we decided on because we wanted to. Whoa. Jeez.
The old dominoes.
Windy in here.
Yeah. Cut. Pick it up.
This is Jake's fault.
Yeah. We can talk about that for sure.
Yeah.
I mean, it wasn't really an issue. It's more maybe a concern by some people.
Yeah.
We valued battery life more so maybe in that.
Battery runtime.
Battery runtime at that point. So we made the decision to do that, but we also, heard feedback and have updated it since.
Yeah.
So
yeah, it's I can tell you just there's no difference in the refresh rate between
on any of them.
Yeah, they're the same. They look smooth. There's no more Pac-Manning across the line, and they are fantastic.
Well, and like you said, it's not like it was like it was we made the cognizant decision during the product development process. Like you said, we placed a higher precedence on that battery runtime.
Yep.
And like everything in life, optics included, give and take.
No free lunch ever.
No free lunch, right?
Yep.
So it's like where do you want to land? And we got customer feedback on that, and we're like, okay, cool, yeah,
cool. Rolling change.
That's what you value more.
Yep.
You're the person we're serving here.
Yep.
Let's make the change.
Yeah.
When I got told that we were actually implementing that rolling change, I was like, oh snap, that's pretty cool. You know what I mean? Like we're listening, to the end user, and we're doing something about it. So to me, that meant a lot.
Yeah, for sure.
With these dots, so you said, like we have the XL. Like what? Well, Chris, you're carrying the XL right now, but like, so who's the primary user of that optic? And obviously, it transcends just that singular focus.
Yeah.
But
yeah, I think I'm an anomaly. And if what I can get away with carrying, obviously. And I'm just interested in truly putting the dot through his paces, right? I think I would be doing it a disservice as an end user, as a tester, as an evaluator, whatever you want to call me, if I just like picked it up, a couple times a week, holstered it inside of my gamer rig and then shot it, then dry fired a little bit, and then it went and sat back down. Like I am carrying this thing constantly, right? Like all the time. It's on my person. It's what I ultimately like clear. and then that makes it into my outside the waistband holster. I train with it from concealment, so it's like constant use. And in addition to that, if you can't tell right now on the cameras, like I sweat a lot. You know what I mean? I am constantly glistening. I can sweat in a freezer type deal. So it's being exposed to just a lot. You know what I mean?
It lives in a saltwater environment.
Exactly. It lives down by the beach. You know what I mean? So I can attest, man, to its durability. And how much and the different ways that I've applied it, carried it, shot it, trained with it. Yeah. I've taken it all over the country, you know, and taken a bunch of different courses with it. And yeah, like I said, what's made it into the final product is actually pretty rad.
When you pick up the XL, I mean, and you get that sight picture, you like, and I like them all, but you're just like, oh, that's nice.
Yeah, it's like that moment of enlightenment.
For sure. Yeah, like on this gun, it has a huge comp, and so it does have very, very little recoil and rise, and the dot never even comes close to leaving the window.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, if you're doing a job with grip and stuff.
Right. So,
you know, and like, you know, each of these dots, you know, and you guys both brought 3 different pistols to showcase, you know, the dots, you know, on maybe like a respective size pistol that they would be optimal for. I also love how your personalities shine through in the pistols that you brought.
Very OCD.
Yeah, this is a little bit more.
Yeah. Now, you know, nervous energy increasing because they're not FDE in the right color, but that's fine. It's another conversation.
Yeah.
Maybe another episode.
We'll get there. You know, I don't know.
Yeah. All right, we'll see.
Next episode.
Yeah. But no,
we'll start with the shirts.
Yeah. Yeah, no problem. But to your point, yeah, like each obviously will have its own use case, maybe its own specific kind of user, right? But that's like I said, in my case, like I use the XL for all sorts of things. However, I think where the XL is going to excel is going to be like again in that performance based shooting, right? Matches, competitions, and not just on handguns. I think it's going to be a great option for PCCs,
for sure,
for shotguns, you know, 3-gun stuff. I mean, it's just like having a small Huey on anything you put on. It's
kind of similar,
on.
yeah.
Right.
It's kind of a similar thing.
Huge heads-up display, the ability to see a lot through the optic and through the window. So yeah. I think there's a lot of use cases, not just like, you know, your carry optics guy shooting USPSA. You know what I mean?
Definitely,
for sure. And I think, you know, the 5 and 8 MOA dots, they're pretty large, but you know, if you think about a lot of the dots that have come before, you might be like, oh, that's a really big dot. I don't know if I want that. But in comparison and ratio to the window size, it kind of just feels like a 2.5 or a 3 MOA dot
in a smaller window.
In a smaller window, yeah. So, yeah, it's great. You know, it doesn't overcloud the target at all. It's just great.
Yep.
Yeah, let's talk. So dot sizes in each of the respective model. What are we looking at there then?
3 and 6 for the CCW and ST, and then 5 and 8 for the Defender XL. Yeah. Like I said, those larger dots, again, they don't appear that much larger in the window when you're looking through it, just because of how big the window is.
Right. The number is deceiving. I think a lot of people just park mentally on the fact that, oh my gosh, it's 5, so it's got to be huge. Yeah. But when you actually hold it to stuff, you can hardly have an appreciation for how much bigger 5 is over 3.
Yeah. If you want to compare like this dot size window and body to something, you know, competitors or whoever's or other dots, it's bigger. It's a lot bigger. It's just in general. So, yeah, I wouldn't be worried about that 5 or 8 MOA dot. Best thing to do would just be to go check one out, honestly. Go look at one.
Well, Chris, I'm trying to think, it may have been you, so if you don't have, but it may not have been, so if you don't have this stat. But one thing that put dot size kind of in perspective for me was the size of like a typical front iron. Like how many MOA is a typical front iron? Do you know?
It's usually about 12.
Okay.
9 to 12.
So it's like, oh, wait a minute. You know, like maybe in the grand scheme of dots, like 8 could sound big.
Yeah.
Like you said though, the ratio, its relationship with the window size, you know, changes how that's going to look as well. So I wouldn't tell a person to not look at it for sure, particularly, you know, depending on their primary applications.
For sure.
Right. Yeah. No, I agree with that 100%.
Anything else? Did we miss anything?
I I don't think so. I think, just in total, there's a dot for everyone here. Any application that you could want to use, there is a dot for you in this lineup, and they're all super, super durable.
Let's talk about, like, really quickly, we can't just talk about what you get in the box.
Oh, yeah.
Oh,
Because
that's a
you
good
get
idea.
a lot of stuff.
Oh, yeah.
Right? We give you some really easy-to-use tools that will help you with, on the ST and the CCW, that help you with removing the battery cap. Right.
Okay.
And if you're worried about marring, your battery cap or the optic itself, I'm particularly not. I just put a flathead in there and I just go to town. Right. But if the tool does help you to avoid, physical contact and damage to the battery cap and the optic itself, makes it really easy to change batteries out.
Top tip.
Yep.
If you have problems with that, back them out and then go.
Yeah, backing out just aligns
the threads.
Yeah, makes the threads and makes the battery cap actually flat before you actually start to add the rotations in to actually tighten the battery caps down. I think that's not just our optics. That's
Literally
just like
anything that requires
That's like bad
anything
advice.
that requires super thin threads.
Yeah, for sure.
Back it out first and then start.
Yep.
Yeah.
And that same tool will also have a T10 on it, which will allow, like, for a rough kind of, like, let's call it field expedient application too. You just pick your screws. In the case of the ST, for example, if you have an MOS, it comes with an MOS plate on it, like Liam talked about, a solid steel plate that you can just throw your screws in there, get hand tight, and you're ready to go right there. Now, I do recommend that at some point you actually follow the torque specs, right?
Correct.
And you make sure that it is torqued down the right way. On earlier protos, like, it was possible for, like, a screw to back out, in particular, like, maybe the left screw. So I just had to, like, witness mark that thing. But I can tell you, like, in the updated, like, production models, non-issue.
Mm-hmm.
So, but at some point you will want to, like, torque down and make sure that you're at least following the torque specs, especially if you're using our screws and our plate. Just make sure that you're torquing that down properly, and then, of course, torquing the optic to the plate, making sure that's all squared away.
And that's just a best practice, And,
100%.
Yeah.
and you might if you're going to set it up, you might as well set it up right.
Right.
And you really see that when you zero it. Once you zero it and you take it off, and then if you torque it back right, it should be very close.
Yep.
At least I know for me, like, even just like my my rifles, if I'm getting ready for a hunt or whatever, if I can eliminate any possible variables
variable, yeah, exactly.
or question marks or additional trips to the range, boy,
Right.
count me in.
For sure.
Or just instill confidence in the gear.
Exactly. You don't want to be like, I think it's good.
Yeah, knowing that you followed a process of install or removal if necessary, and I reinstalled the exact same way. That's like free confidence there, right?
For sure.
Also, let's see, what else do you get? You get an assortment of screws, right? So you get I think 5 or 6 sets of screws for like very popular like handguns across the board, and it's something should work for your handgun, right? And there are a couple, and if your gun doesn't immediately take the DPP footprint or isn't milled for that, like, we have options. There are many companies out there that have aftermarket plates and options for them. So I mean, possibilities are pretty endless there.
For sure. And we do include a lot, and that's because we want it to kind of be like a one-stop shop experience. No one likes having to go and find different hardware for anything.
No.
So if we can get you shooting our dots as quickly as possible, that's kind of the goal here. Quickly going back to the ST and the XL.
Well, I'd say one thing that's kind of convenient. It's like, it's going to match the pistol that you put it on, but like, look what you have going on here. There could be a situation you're like, I want to put this, I have the stop, and I'm going to pull it off here, and I'm going to put it over here. Bam, you got the screws to do that.
Exactly, for sure. And then the ST and the XL, something cool that comes with it is that Glock MOS plate. It's steel, which is much more rigid. It's going to hold zero,
plate,
and it's has 4 recoil lugs, which is awesome.
Yeah,
So,
I'm a big fan of stuff that like light mounts and optic mounts that in and of themselves come with bosses and alleviate the screws from having that job. You know what I mean?
Yes.
So
Okay.
I'm a big fan of that. So that's one of the things I really like about our plate. Yeah.
yeah.
Awesome,
So screws, tools, you get a lot with the package for sure.
Yeah, we just want you shooting these dots. That's the main goal. Like, how can we get you mounted up and shooting as fast as possible?
Yep. Across the board, auto shut off now, 10 minutes.
Yep.
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
Yep.
Shake awake. all the things.
Cool, man.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I dig it. Well, I appreciate you guys talking us through the Defender family of red dots. And for the listeners out there who may need a dot for their pistol or possibly their shotgun, like I personally run it on a shotgun as well, like during turkey season and stuff like that. Hopefully, and boy, I think you'd be hard pressed to not for this to not be the case. There's a Defender red dot to join your family of firearms at your house. So awesome!
It's all about family.
It's all about family, baby. All right, thanks, guys. Thanks, everybody, for listening. Definitely let us know in the comments below what you think, and get yourself a Defender. We'll catch you on the next one.
Stay safe.
Bye.
Bye.